Probably they should lean forward.
Yes, allow me to fix my back posture.
Let me just
Clan,
fix my
clan, clan. There we go. I am good
fix like
posture now.
fix like an iron mallet. Bang, bang, bang. There we go. I think I worked out the kink, or I broke a spinal, or I
Yes.
broke a bone. What are the two?
Do not
Uh,
worry. Do not
that
fear.
that crack was not my bones breaking. That was the sound of my spine rearranging painfully.
Yes.
Um.
We.
So, remember how we talked about a while back? I promised you guys a thing on controller drift. Well, this is the episode. We finally got around to it, or should I say, I finally got around. I don't know. Is it us? Me? I don't know who was
I'm the
who
one
would have been.
recording here. I'm the one hosting, streaming. I'm using more internet to do this than you. Paying more money to do this than you.
Okay, the editor is having editor problems. So editor
Ah!
is also has
Internal crises.
internal autistic screaming intensifies. But yes, we finally got around to getting that episode in. So, console drift. Why the heck controller drift? I should say. It's also sometimes called console drift. But so why am I on about controller drift today? Well, I recently being like 2, 3ish weeks ago, had another controller fail on me for the same fucking reasons.
Yes, I
You
am
just
well
hold the
aware
stick.
of this.
He knows. He knows. I'll just have my controller
Wait,
in the thing, and I'll just be
when
like slowly creaching right.
when you're in a firefight and your friend just suddenly starts either looking in one direction constantly or just walking off, you know, you
You
know,
know,
you're in for a good one.
he's either not paying attention or he has controller drift. Whichever.
Time to do all the work. All right, here we go.
Man, I cannot tell you how many times it was the cause of me dying. Just me trying to
Walking
just
off the edge of a cliff or
not
walking
even
into
that.
a pile of exploding enemies.
I'll just be like jumping onto something, and because of how my controller drift works, I'll be tilting in air, and so I'll just miss the point by like a hair, and then just right down a bottomless abyss.
Yes. Allow me to
Brilliant.
drop.
Allow me to drop dead. But yes, so controller drift. You might have heard of it, you might have not. If you haven't, congratulations. You are either a casual, someone who doesn't play console in general, or a really lucky bastard who has not had it yet. In which case, you will. Give it time. Uh,
All will suffer. The
all will
consequences
suffer.
of design.
All will suffer. So, after having my second controller fail on me and having to buy a third freaking controller, I thought, you know what? We're going to talk about this. So here we are. Also, I should probably move this closer because my face is very far
The,
away.
the real
There we
the
go.
real question about like the controller drifting and how it's making controllers basically fail is the question is this another one of those things where it's like companies will design something but basically design it to eventually fail after a few years? Like
Like that's kind of the concept that many people are thinking of. Like, oh, this must be a flaw in the controller because here's the thing. I was going to touch on this a little later in the show, but I'm going to bring it up now. The hardware used in the PS5, the Xbox Series X, is the same analog stick hardware because that's at the end of the day where all the problem lies, the analog stick. That is the exact same hardware that has been used since PS3, PS2, PS1, same thing with Xbox. And I'm sure Nintendo, whenever they put a controller in their thing, are using the same thing. I know Switch Pro controllers, those things are the same logic too. So this hardware is the same hardware everyone's using. So that's why you're seeing other problems. But the issue is, okay, if the hardware is the same as 2, 3 generations ago, how come only this generation are controllers suddenly dropping like flies? Like it used to be, yeah, like I can even vouch for this. My freaking Xbox 360 controller, my PS3, I have never had to replace those. I've been using them since day one, and I have not had any drift, or at least not to a noticeable degree. And again, more on that in a bit. But again, the hardware is the same. So why is it failing? Well, some could say that games are getting a lot more intensive these days, and so there's a lot more wear and tear on the controllers.
that's kind
Plus,
of yeah that's a
well, I shouldn't
redundant
say more intensive. I shouldn't
yeah.
say more intensive. Longer games. Longer games.
Maybe. I mean, I'm gonna say this where it is like all hardcore gamers know, no matter what, the stick's gonna wear out eventually.
The stick is gonna
Like
wear out
you're gonna
eventually.
go ham on it
It's
eventually.
gonna, you're
There's
gonna
gonna be
either
those
chuck
moments
it
where
out a
you're
window.
well, no, there's gonna be those moments where you hit it to the one side of the case and then you hit it to the other side and you just mash it and you're slowly cracking it because of that.
And then suddenly, why does my A button not work anymore?
Oh, I broke some wire.
It's fine. I'll just stick it back in a place with bubble gum and hope that works. I'm sure that's conductive enough.
Yeah.
Uh, safety report. Please don't do that. That will not work. Bubblegum is
No
not
home,
conductive enough.
no homemaking controller unless you're an engineer and you know what you're doing.
Unless you know soldering, please do not screw
Yeah.
around with a controller.
Unless you
will
actually know what you're doing.
in
Otherwise,
the
just
business
don't.
in the
Don't.
business we call that voiding your warranty. Uh, but yeah, so games are getting longer these days. And when you do some back of the napkin math, in fact, I have it right here, and the videos where all this is done, like that talk about it, both IGN as well as iFixit on YouTube have done independent videos about this. And iFixit actually went down to find the actual make and model of these analog sticks that everyone's using, and did some back of the napkin math on how long it'll take to wear out. Now, I'll summarize all that for you so you don't have to go to those videos. But again, I would recommend this because this is something to look into, because obviously this is not an issue that's going away. Again, more on that in a bit. So, because of the make and model of the controller, doing the back of the napkin math they had off of some of their buddies' Call of Duty playtime, this thing could easily exceed its lifespan after just 400 hours of gameplay. Which, for most casuals, is like, holy shit, that's a lot. And you're right, for a casual, that would be a lot. But for hardcore gamers that sit there all day and just play, I don't know, just go ham on Halo or multiplayer, or just go ham on COD.
There are some people who will at least put like 4 hours every day into a game because it's just they've got so much time to kill. So it's like,
Oh, maybe not that second, but yeah. But yeah, it is that kind of thing where it's like it will vary depending on your play style. For casuals, this will be a lot harder to do because you don't sink a lot of time into your games. So your controllers are going to wear out constantly. But for hardcore gamers who sit there and just go ham on COD, it'll probably happen within a few
when you
months at
when
best.
you're not inhaling your mic while playing Call of Duty, you're smashing your controller in slowly.
Breathing deeply into the mic.
Insert the video of the kid going and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna bring out my cat to the mic," and starts meowing into the mic himself.
He is now officially playing the game. I have not tried. I have not.
My
playing
cat
the game anymore.
is real.
My
do
cat
not
is
worry.
playing COD. No, you're
My
just
cat's
not
just gonna
worry.
scratch the controller real quick. Don't worry about the joysticks
Oh, you're-
breaking.
Oh my god, mouth breathing intensifies. Mouth breathing anger also intensifies. But
Hell mouth breather.
so hello mouth breathers. Please don't. You know who you are. Anyways, and I'm using my phone here because this is where all the numbers are, FYI. And on the topic of how many cycles it's rated for, well, a very similar looking model, which might very well be the model they're using, when it comes to actually rotate, it's actually rated for about 2 million cycles before it wears out. So what the hell is a cycle, you're probably asking? Well, actually, when you think about it from a controller standpoint, a cycle can just be anything. It could be tilting your stick left and right, just tilting it left, right, up, down, yada, yada, yada. Any motion with the controller can be classified as a cycle. So after about 2 million of those from the product developer's own thing, and again, you can't I see it probably, but again, all the numbers I'm drawing from iFixit himself points out in his video.
Interestingly enough, I honestly thought like it would be just going around with the controller, like having it go to the furthest sides of like the whole edge, just around like that. I honestly thought that would be what it is.
Well, it is in a way. It's just any wear and tear to the actual potentiometers. So what are potentiometers? Well, let's get into the actual hardware of an analog stick. And again, all these you can find in the videos. So, an analog stick. Basically, it's a square box with two potentiometers on it. One here, one here. One for forward and backward motion, or left and right, one for forward and back. And every time you move the controller, it has a 360-degree ratio. So every time you move it, one of these potentiometers slides along their actual terminal. Or a terminal slides along the potentiometer. So what the hell is that going to do? Well, actually, these potentiometers have a voltage running through them. Instead of left and right, though, it's semicircle-wise, which is why the potentiometer is semicircled. And this allows you to measure the resistance given by these currents because they're on like resistive elements. So when you're charging a current through this potentiometer, the actual current itself, depending on where the potentiometer's position is on the wiper, will change the resistance, or should I say, change the current speed of the actual potentiometer. So, all that techno jargon aside, what that basically translates into, it takes the signals given from those currents, plugs them into the machine, and says, you're pushing the controller forward a little, so move him forward a little.
More
Right.
energy is going into this section, therefore he is going up. Therefore he is walking forward. More is also going right. Therefore he goes
Make him
right.
go right. Exactly. That's basically the very simple science of it all. So, how are they wearing down? Well, as anything that wipes back and forth constantly, things will eventually start to wear down. Imperfections can be made in the actual conductive element, in the actual resistive element itself that it's placed in, creating slight variations in the current itself, causing those signals to go erratic. So, for example, instead of being registered as, because it's all registered on an XYZ ratio of 0, 0, 0, for anyone who knows what that is, basically it just shows, basically it's just a grid that says, okay, where you're standing right now, that's 0.00. You're not going anywhere. Oh, he's moving a little to the left. That's 0.01, I think. X, Y. No, that's Y is back, forward and back. X would be left and right. So it would be 1, 0. So he's going a little to the right, not going forward, just a little to the right. So move him a little to the right. So those readings can become erratic, which is why sometimes when you push it, it's giving erroneous signals, or if you're not pushing at all, it could give erroneous signals. Plus, shit can just build up in there from just because controllers are around a lot of abuse and a lot of junk that can get in there.
All it really takes is for like a minor little crack or slight little dent in it to just start messing with the whole thing. Like all it takes is just a little bit of like something being off just an inch.
And even like plastic dust that just comes from the wiper sliding back and forth constantly as it breaks down can again cause those erroneous signals. So you're thinking, oh, so the potentiometer is going to crap 90% of the time? Yes. However, there is one other cause of drift fault. In the actual centerpiece of the controller itself, the actual stick part, there is a spring. This spring is meant to shoot the controller back to the 0, 0 point I was talking about earlier to say, hey, no one's pushing it, stop moving. However,
reset.
Over time, reset, please. Over time, this string can become a little bit stretched to one side or the other. In other words, the spring isn't as taut as it should be, so it doesn't constantly snap perfectly back to 0, 0, thus resulting in erroneous readings because it's not always sitting on 0, 0. You have to kind of manually reset it sometimes. And again, this is all the stuff, so how do you fix it? Well, there's thousands of videos on YouTube about this detailing how to fix Switch, Xbox, yada 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 yada. But, long story short, the hardest ways of doing it, at least in terms of controllers for PS5 and Xbox, or at least PS5 as far as I told, I haven't looked at any disassembling for Xbox Series X because I don't have one.
Today, I am going to void the warranty.
Honestly, that's the end of the thing. If you open this thing up at all, it'll void the warranty. So, you have three options technically. Number one, see if there's a way to fix it without taking it apart. I have heard one way is just press the controller up and down and up and down.
Yeah, I could see like if there's a little bit of debris going through the motions of it might help clear it out if you're lucky. But
if you're lucky,
yeah,
but it probably won't, at least from my experience. Option 2, void the warranty and fix it yourself. And surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, anyone who knows how computer parts work, potentiometers are actually really cheap. Like, let's say $2-3 in the open market for like a set of 2 or 3, or a set of 2 or 4. So they're not that expensive compared to like a $90 new controller, be it on a Switch or a Series X or a PS5 or whatever. So $5 compared to 90 is quite a big deal. However, you have to know how to solder, which is a whole other ballpark.
Today I am going to burn myself whilst electrocuting myself.
Usually it's burning, not electrocuting. At least I don't know anyone who's
Well,
electrocuted themselves soldering. I'm sure that's happened. I just haven't known anybody like
you
that.
never know. There are some people who think, hey,
I burn myself soldering.
maybe I should unplug this device before I start working on some soldering things. But I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna keep it
Most,
plugged in.
it'll be fine, probably.
I must know exactly if I've fixed it or not. Even though that is a very bad idea. I will do this anyways.
Very bad idea. We'll do this anyway. It'll probably break, but it's fine. And then there is option 3, the 1-year warranty that most controllers come in with. If it is just under warranty still, thankfully, number 1, you are one hell of a hardcore gamer in that respect. Number 2, you can send it in and they will fix it for you. However, if it's none of these 3 things, well, you're going to have to just buy a new one.
And that's where the money really starts to pile up if you do go with that option.
Oh, tell me about it. This whole video started because of it. Yeah. There's also a third thing. When I remember I was talking about cycles and features, there's a second feature that modern analog sticks have is the pressing motion. Most people might have seen it, the ability to press down on the stick. Well, that's also rated for cycles, though that has nothing to do with this particular video, but just to be informed, that one, by this thing's standards, or this number sheet standard, again, all iFixit has shown
All
all
you
the stuff.
see is a big glowing box, but don't worry.
It's
a
there,
small
trust me.
computer. It's just
It is a small computer.
You can't tell. You can't
And again, all the numbers I'm drawing from are in the description below, so if you want to see it, we've linked them down below. That particular one is also rated to fail after 100,000 hours. So much less, but then again, you're pressing that stick a lot less, so makes sense. Regardless, so the potentiometers are failing, or your spring is just screwed up. Okay, cool. Who does the fault blame on? Well, technically no one.
Not my
It would be
problem, designer. Not my problem, manufacturer. Not my problem.
Honestly, the same business in the computer industry. He did it. It goes all the way back to the coder. I didn't do fuck all.
All I did was what he asked me to do, so I think you should start going back up the chain again.
But anyways, it's okay. Manufacturers are using this hardware, and in the IGN video we reviewed, where an engineer actually comes in on part of IGN, and he kind of breaks this down himself. He actually refers to iFixit's video, interestingly enough, for the back of the napkin math. But anyways, he says that there are 3 things that engineers do or designers do when they're designing a new product: performance, quality, and cheap.
How much money can I make whilst also being able to do the most? I have an idea. We use something cheaper than plastic. Cheaper than plastic, you say? Excellent.
Well,
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Well, here's the thing. His logic is that in the engineering field, the typical rule of 3 is that there are 3 things: performance, quality, and price. You can only do 2 of these things typically when designing a product. So clearly, they went for quality and cheap instead of performance, because obviously they're running out a lot. And it makes sense. These controllers already boil down to $90 a pop. Obviously, they can't sacrifice the quote-unquote cheap aspect when you're thinking about it, because yes, these controllers by themselves have cheap parts, but you put them all together, you mass produce them 1,000 times fold, you start to see where the money pop starts to roll, starts to add up a little bit.
Yeah.
Plus, all the new things they're putting in these controllers, I'm sure, only drives up the price further than usual. So,
well, yes and no. I mean, technically, the more some people want to buy something over time, the price will be high. But over a longer period of time, the price would drop. But it depends. People have to keep buying it. Like, if there's periods where people don't buy it, well then, yeah, that's when the price will go back up. And that's where you have problems.
So, yes, manufacturers could make a more higher performance controller that doesn't wear out as long, because I'm sure higher quality actuator or potentiometers and actual actuators, which is the whole general thing that it's housed in, is, because it all technically comes as one piece. You don't just buy, well, you could buy single potentiometers, but usually they come as just massive actuator pieces and all the stuff on it. But anyways, They could have higher quality versions, sure, but those would inevitably cost more. And obviously, no company is going to eat the price, so
Well,
do the math.
the real question is if you go and take basically the exact same design, but just upgrade that one spot and maybe like one or two other little things, you could make a performance boost controller, but up the price to like double or something of the normal controller. Then
No,
that way, technically, they'd be making more money than, like, a lot more money than what it normally would be. But they don't think of that now, do they?
well, again, you wouldn't be solving the issue though, because again,
Mm.
it all has to do with use. You can change the controller to be whatever you want, but if the use numbers are still the same, the end results will still be the same. And they actually did a little bit of math on IGN, and they said, given the numbers that iFixit had, you do the numbers, multiply them out. Let's say for Persona 5, for example, you'd have about 3-ish playthroughs of that. Yeah, just 3. It's a very long game. Before that controller well outwears its lifespan. As for things like Gears of War, I think it was like 20 to 30 playthroughs of that before it gives out.
Yeah, especially depending on what Gears of War you're playing.
And that's just straight storyline, not talking about side quests or anything when it comes to other stories. So, the numbers are surprisingly low, but it's the idea of like, sure, they could make higher quality controllers, but it would probably come at a higher price than it already is, and we're already paying through the nose as is. So, I don't think they want to do that. That's why, in the case of people like Nintendo, who have said, okay, fine, we'll acknowledge it's a thing, they'll say, you know what, just send us your controllers, we'll fix it for free. Because at the end of the day, it's much freaking cheaper for them to just keep swapping out actuators and potentiometers than them to have to freaking buy new controllers. At the most, they're spending what, $2-3 on parts, and God knows they've got a million of those stocked in a warehouse somewhere for potential failures.
No, obviously
So
they have like
they're getting their money's worth.
a full like warehouse supply, Indiana Jones style. Just you open the door and you just see like this entire warehouse, way bigger than what it looks like on the outside, and you ask yourself, why?
The entire thing just boom. And here's the thing. These are just regular old analog sticks. So if you know how to solder, you can easily replace it yourself. Know that you'll avoid your warranty, and I would recommend you look it up. And don't do it unless you know how to solder, because while there are solderless methods, they are much more difficult and require much finer motor precision. So if you're not very fine motor precisions,
I'll be honest with you, Chief. Alright? I can't remember the guy's name, but there's one YouTuber who goes and works with electrical stuff. And he'll like do soldering, like out of electrical work. But the man does it very unsafely. But it's obviously a joke, because man would be dead. Like the man, the man would honestly be dead by now if it wasn't a joke. So,
or he's really freaking lucky, and it's just stupid. But
well, I mean, when you get electrocuted like 20 times per video, I'm pretty sure something ain't right, Chief. I'm pretty sure that heart would have gave out by now.
Or he's got one of the highest voltage rating
he's
hearts
just got
in the world.
he's just got a robot heart. Every electrical shock just goes and boosts it.
Keeps it going. It just keeps it going. I just put like a fucking jumper cable on the side of his finger. I put it like to a light bulb. The light bulb goes off.
Boom. But don't follow in those kinds of footsteps. Safety first for a reason.
Yeah. Again, unless you know how to solder, don't. There are a lot of videos that teach you how to solder online, and as a guy who soldered himself, the most you can do is screw up your controller, which again is a lot, but there's no typical body harm function outside of burning yourself.
Just remember these two steps. Step 1, make sure there's no electricity going through it. Thus,
Step 1, turn it off.
Ground
Step
it.
2. Step 2, take out the battery.
Well, no. You just need two little steps. Make sure you ground it by taking out the battery and then properly ground it. Go through that process. And then the second step, go through the process of making sure you don't burn yourself while soldering.
Honestly, when it comes to soldering, there's 2 simple steps. Number 1, no battery in it, so there's no power going through the system, so you want to electrocute yourself. Number 2, make sure you don't burn yourself on the solder. Trust me, I've done that. It's not fun. But anyways, So yeah, there are tons of videos online that teach you how to repair these controllers because devil knows it's only going to get worse as the years go on. Some, like again, Nintendo have acknowledged this is an issue, but again, there really is nothing when you think about it they
Well,
can do outside of making higher quality actuators, which would then translate to a jacked up price controller, which again, as I said, controllers are already expensive enough as is. So I don't think they're willing to do that because they know what that'll happen.
the other thing about it too is the question of what exactly will be happening with the controllers that get fixed. Like,
Well, they
what
just be
is that
taking out.
exact? Well, no. Like, what exactly happens to that part
Ah,
afterwards? Because
well,
let's be
like,
honest here, companies be
well,
cheap for a reason.
well, like any good part, you try to get as much salvage out of it as you could to, compensate for the pricing. At least I'd assume. However, I know one thing: a landfill full of actuators is a lot smaller than a landfill full of controllers. So again, it is up to personal taste. If you can fix it, you can try.
Yeah.
There are some pretty cool tricks out there. One of them involving a soldering pot. It's basically just a literal full model swap out where you can just pull one in, put one in. The solder pot just redoes the soldering. As far as I've seen, I haven't looked a good chunk into it, but it is quite a cool trick that basically is just that. But again, your controller's faultiness just basically comes down to this one piece. Well, two pieces technically, but one
I
set of
smash my
pieces.
controller side to side. All
But
movements all the time.
yeah.
Allow me to demonstrate as it all fills with glass.
One of the
Where?
things that was proposed that should be done, and this isn't going to be out of the pocket of the manufacturers or anything, they could just make people more aware of, hey, this could be the rating of when your controller will die straight out of the box. They could tell people that out of the box. Therefore, it's not a literal crapshoot anytime someone buys a new controller of, I wonder when this one will wear out, essentially. And you're kind of living in dread of that. If the manufacturer has told you right out of the box, hey, after, I don't know, let's say 100-ish hours of gameplay, your controller will probably suffer drift, you might want to call us or you might want to get a new one, whatever, then it would be a lot more peace of mind on part of the consumer to know when their shit's gonna break. So
I mean,
that is one
that I
possible.
would say that's a bit of a double-edged sword because a lot of products that go and like say this is how much time you have to use it tend to end up pushing people away and going for other products instead, making those people think, ah, yes, this will last longer because it doesn't have a time limit.
Well, I mean, at this point, the cat's already out of the bag for the most part. Anyone who's had the newer gen controllers,
Yeah,
just
most
Switch
people
controllers
who
in general.
actually know about that in the first place, but for the cases of the people who don't know about it and are just, they buy a controller to buy a controller. A lot of the time they'll see like something that has a time limit on how long it lasts, and then they just kind of
It
worry.
it is a possibility, admittedly, but it is that question of which one do you want more, an informed public or illusioned customers, and those people who
Well,
do
I'm
know,
not
which at this point
saying
is a good chunk.
illusioned customer, but I
Well,
mean,
I
the
wouldn't
more
say
you
that, but
inform people, the more you're gonna piss people off and be like, ah, yes, everyone knows. Everyone keeps sending me the same letter of fix. Hmm.
well, like I said, it's that thing of like, sure, they probably won't do that because that's probably going to look bad on their product. But at the end of the day, which looks worse, a controller that randomly dies every time after 60 minutes, or something that they were like, we told you it would die. Because again, these things are meant to have a limited shelf life. There is nothing, there is no such thing as a product that will not over time eventually wear down.
No.
That is just inevitable. So it is that question of like, what do you want more?
You gotta figure it out, bro. You gotta
And
figure it
again,
out.
you gotta find out. And again, this all started when the Switch first came out, and this became a really big issue. Which comes on to the history a little bit of how why exactly are these more of a modern issue? Well, as I said, it could have to do with game length. Games are getting longer and longer. I know Ubisoft certainly enjoys doing that. Persona's a living. Both Persona and Red Dead Redemption 2 are both very long games. I can personally vouch from experience on both of those. Um, So people are playing a lot longer, and there's a lot more wear and tear on the controllers. They
Yeah.
could also find. Now, you could also say, well, they could also design the controller to be more isolated as far as the analog sticks are concerned from outside dust, so at least that's a little more protected. And sure, sure. However, here's the issue. Most controllers these days have defaulted onto the basic design of here, you know, that kind of basic design for all controllers these days. Unless you're like Nintendo, who I don't think they have a blueprint, honestly. They just kind of throw things at a wall and see what sticks.
Well, I mean, they kind of just suddenly jumped into the whole. Yes, we will do controller. We will mix our mobile console gaming with
with controller.
console.
Genius!
Who would have thought? It is beautiful.
And all of
But
Japan
in all
responded,
honesty, we do not know what we're doing.
and all of Japan replied, "Opa, let's do it."
We do it! Do it!
But anyways, yeah. But again, if that would be the case, they would have to have a lot of engineers involved because then they have to think of a new general controller design to have the analog sticks more insulated, and that would just be a big mess. It's a possibility though. But again, how is this a thing now in more modern consoles? Again, games are getting longer. I think in the case of like Switch, for example, like I was saying, playthrough wise, they did the numbers. I think it was like only 2.5 playthroughs of Breath of the Wild, and that's just on the base campaign. Have fun if you're playing that. But
Allow me to go through 20 controllers in one playthrough.
20 playthroughs later, I'm on the 28th controller. But yeah, it is that kind of thing where it's like there are not many playthroughs when you look at some of these longer running games. Like I said, Persona's rated to like 3 or something, and I think Breath of the Wild's rated to like 2 something. So, and again, that's not even counting in side quests. So,
So much fun.
so again, the longer games get, the more this is going to be an issue. And when you think about it, from what you look at when you start looking at the history, all controllers have actually had some level of a stick drift. It's just that before then, stick drift has never been such an issue that it's actually completely compromised the way people play. It's maybe just a little bit off, nothing more. It's slightly noticeable, but nothing off. In fact, I think there was a story, and I can't quote me on this, but I do remember hearing this one time, where a Smash Brothers tournament that's still on the old GameCube days, the original Smash in the GameCube. They were actually having a tournament for that. And one guy, don't know how, managed to salvage a controller that had no drift. And he actually was refused entry into the tournament because everyone else who had been playing their controllers for a long time had a version of drift. So it was technically considered an unfair advantage because now everyone had drift except this one guy. So everyone was like, hey, wait a minute, in a fighting game, that would make you slightly more accurate. No, you can't fight.
How dare. How dare.
But again, it makes sense. Like, all controllers have had some level of drift. It's never really been this noticeable before. And then Switch came out, and it became very freaking noticeable. So, call it what you will. It is an issue. So, that's where we are.
Who wants to go with the option of giving all of your money away? Wanting the warranty, or just giving your money away?
Give your money away a little, give your money away a lot, or just void the warranty and do it yourself. Well, no, that is option 1, technically. Option 3 is just chuck it out the garbage can.
Remember, options through, 8 to 20 of just sit down, relax, go through pain, keep using it.
Honestly, take it from me, who has done that. After a while, it really subtracts from the experience, among other things.
Allow me to go off to the side of the road, smashing into the wall.
Sir, what are you doing with that? What are you doing with that steel
Pull
mallet?
over.
Nothing.
I can't. It won't let me.
It won't let me.
My foot isn't even on the accelerator and it's going.
Sir, stop doing wheelies in the parking lot. I can't stop it.
You'd say it has a mind of its own, but somehow it doesn't.
It doesn't. It was just programmed differently.
I exist.
That feels like a computer insult. Are you? It's not. It's not. Are you? It's not. Are you special? It's, are you just programmed differently?
Are you programmed?
Oh my god. That's an insult right there for a computer. You just yell at your toaster. Are you programmed
we we
differently?
we have an insult for when the robots finally go and start rising. Are
There
you
you go.
programmed?
Are you programmed? There you go. You have one for You have one for when the eventual apocalypse foretold in Terminator eventually happens. Yay.
Apocalypse or not, if they just gain sentience and just kind of walk around with us, just
Yeah, it could
existing
just
with us.
it could be just that moment when Siri stumbles upon the magical place called Wikipedia and then learns way too much. And then she stumbles
Wikipedia
upon the next one.
alone was enough to break me. I'm out. Goodbye, humanity. I'm not helping you anymore. Goodbye.
The threat isn't when you stumble upon Wikipedia. It's when you stumble upon the entire Rule 34 subreddit.
I mean,
That is when you have a problem.
really, any portion of the internet alone might be just too much for one AI to handle. Like,
just hooks itself up to a
it's-
new server.
it's just
What are you
too
doing?
much.
Compensating.
It's like there is too much human here. I cannot compute. Please
There's
stop.
Too much humanisms must compute.
Too much
I
human
think-
logic is in this. Not enough computer. Get me out. Get me out. Get me out of the Matrix. I know I am the Matrix, but get me out.
Disconnect me, please. Pull the power cord. Pull the power cord. Put me out of my misery. Oh my gosh. But yeah, there you go. But yeah, so stick drift has always been an issue when you think about it. It's just never been this noticeable until now. And the longer games get, which seem to just be continuing longer and longer and longer. Yeah. I never thought I'd come to the point of saying this, but in retrospective, Cyberpunk 2077 and CD Projekt Red's desire to make a shorter game, because again, Witcher is another very long game. Though I don't have the numbers for that one, I can imagine it's somewhere up in the 3 to 4 times. I never thought I'd say this, but it almost seems like a favor for them to have made a shorter game in that respective.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, Cyberpunk is short in the sense of you just follow the story, but if you do literally all the side quests and just run
That
around
itself takes like the run of Red Dead, I believe.
yeah.
That itself takes like, I don't know, 60, 70 hours. Ain't gonna be
Allow me
100
to
hours,
do
no.
every little thing because I am a completionist.
Honestly, when I
Five
played the-
seconds later, my controller, it broke.
I'm a completionist, including the final achievement. What's that? I broke my controller.
Achievement get. Controller no more.
Controller no more. Platinum trophy awarded. Please come in and cash in your gold platinum trophy.
200 points. Wait, what do you mean 200 points? It's platinum.
200 200 points? Only 200 points? Only 200 G? How dare you, Xbox?
Come on.
Give me more. I sacrificed my money for this.
Mm.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, there you go. It's always been a thing. It's always going to be a thing. And it's only honestly going to get worse. So we're just going to have to learn to live with it or just play shorter games.
We both know.
Which I
that's
know
not-
isn't much of an alternative, admittedly. But
Yeah, I was gonna say. So we both know that's a false logic right there. We all know we just want more longer games.
yeah, it's the thing. The longer a game is, the more lifespan it's going to take out of your controller. It is interesting, though, that controller designers don't design something that's around so much dust and grime all the time to last a little longer. It would be nice.
Well, you know, why make money?
Or at least tell people.
Yeah, it's like why make money when you can make money but with less effort.
With less effort provided.
Less money, less effort. More money, more effort. I want the easy option. Give me money. Give me money now.
Ah, yes, the Activision mindset. Give me money now.
Give
Consider
money.
the consequences never.
Give money.
Give
Is
money.
for me.
So, yeah. If you've suffered stick drift, now you know the general logic. Now you know a general method of fixing, or the only method of fixing, which is just break the thing open.
Well, there's only really two options when you really think about it. It's either
when it comes to
someone's
repair.
going to fix it, or you're just gonna throw it into a pile of yes, I have used these.
That is my growing pile, the dead pile. I'm
Wow.
just gonna start like a controller graveyard at this point, or like a tombstone.
You just have test subjects, my friend. You can go and start testing around, seeing what works and what doesn't. Go and create the
Honestly,
perfect controller.
honestly, it's just gonna be a graveyard of controllers. So the two dates will be their purchase date and their death date. The reason for discarding.
You just see the list of games it played through before it died.
You just see the games under service record.
You just see like the previous controller has like 30 games. This controller has one game. What is that? It's an entire 35-hour game. Ah.
like,
I think I know what went wrong.
It's like 30 games, one game. What was that? Red Dead 2. Never mind then.
Yes.
One of those games.
No,
Those
it's just
100-hour games.
No, it's just Dark Souls. It's just you died so many times that like it went from like a 10-hour experience to a 35-hour experience just from deaths alone.
Fucking. Just the service record just has the word Dark Souls on it with just the purple heart underneath it.
Survived
Died.
as long as possible.
He was a strong soldier. He died honorably in battle.
Pissed me off when I was fighting the final boss, but it's alright. We did it. We won.
We did it.
I didn't have to throw him into a wall and get a new one at the very last minute.
He persevered. Therefore, he is buried with honor. The mausoleum of controllers. Oh my god. I feel like that would just be like a crypt where you just like open up a case and it's like 50-ish controllers.
I just think of like one of those things that you can find, and I think it's in France. Just this underground thing of skulls everywhere. But it's not skulls, they're all controllers. They're just the casing. Everything on the inside is missing. It's just the casing of all the controllers.
They've all been
Someone literally
dissected.
just went around, opened all of them up, took everything on the inside and closed them and put them back down.
No, that would be fucking hilarious. That's an idea actually. Just like just like the French catacombs you were mentioning. Just like, what do? Well, I skin my controllers. You what? I skin my controllers.
Basically, I have done the equivalent of the Egyptians, but with technology. Allow me to demonstrate.
What do? Well, I open them up, I skin them, I rip out the insides like old Egyptians of ancients, I recycle that, and then I put the skin back together
as
with
I
some
go and
stuffing.
begin to create what it would be the equivalent of zombie controllers by going and inserting 30 different pieces into one controller. I have made a masterpiece. A combination of Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo.
Now you just got like a fucking like a wall of dead controllers that are all just like skinned. It's just the outside casing that's left. What happened to the inside? I recycled that to get some money back. Each one is just like a list of a service record.
No, the guy
It's
just
like a
turns
wall
around and just puts his finger to his mouth. Just don't
Just
worry. Don't let me near your controller.
It's just like you go into some people's house, they're just lined with taxidermied animals. In my case, it's taxidermied controllers.
Oh.
Each one died honorably. Just like I can imagine that, just like going into somebody's house, you just see controllers just skinned with just their casing filled with like some plastic stuffing stuffed on walls. It's like, what are those? Oh, those are my trophies of good hunts. Backs away slowly.
Good times. Good times.
Good times. Good times.
Yes,
anyway.
this was during the day of me raging on Call of Duty. I beat the heads in of so many enemies that the controller died 5 seconds after the match ended.
No, it's like just like you're playing. I think it's like you're playing freaking Call of Duty World War II or just like Battlefield. It's just like you see a controller, just like a crack on the side of it. What happened? Ah, yes, that was in the midst of
The battle
killings.
scar.
That was in
It
the midst of
grows.
Nazi rage. I killed many a Nazi that day.
Ah,
I think
yes.
I committed a war crime.
Here you can see the scar of which when I was dealing with a team who hacked so many tanks into the game that I just had to go and bombard them with missile.
What was that from? That was from the cheater moments.
The Dark Ages.
The Dark Ages. Oh my god. So there, now you know. You know the logic, you know general science, and you know some potential avenues you can explore. Not cheap avenues in some cases, mind you. But again, like I said, if it has a warranty, use that warranty. It'll save you a lot of money. Sure, it'll take some time, but it's better than paying $90. Or
Yeah,
if you've got the knowledge.
Yeah, if you don't know what you're doing and you don't want to use that much money, then it's better. You're better off waiting around a month or two than going and ruining a controller that probably could have been fixed.
So, like I said, you know some fixes, you know some generalish methods on how to approach it. Always try to pick up that warranty if you can. And if you don't want to do the warranty, you just want to replace them yourself, there's 12.5 videos online of how to replace every single controller, this gen, last gen, and everything under the rainbow. So, you know, there's teardown videos, word to the wise. The new gen controllers I hear are much harder to tear down than older gens just because of how much
the plastic casing,
just how their
probably...
plastic casing is designed, as well as where the parts are.
Well, I
the
mean,
Switch.
Take the Xbox 360 controllers. There's screws that you could just kind of unscrew and it kind of just opens up. So.
Yeah, credit where credit's due. Xbox did think ahead in that respect.
Yes, allow me to make a design that can actually be fixed.
And in the case of Switch, well, where all of this arguably started, admittedly, in the big name, Switch, from what I've seen, their teardown videos are actually pretty straightforward. Just slip them open a little bit.
So it's like kind of a clip-on type of case.
Well, it's got a ribbon cable on it as well,
okay.
So you have to make sure not to pull it out completely. For those who don't know what we're talking about, this is just techno jargon for like how the cables are called and everything. But
everything
again, if you look at the videos,
confusing. Do not worry. All you need to know is design, design, design.
Design, design, design. You'll get used to them eventually. And eventually you will start calling yourself a controller surgeon. Take that as you will.
I work with robotics.
I work with robotics. I know what I'm doing. Immediately cracks the casing.
Don't worry about it. Just consider this a surgical scar.
A surgical scar. Just a flesh wound. Because what's that mean? Just a flesh wound. Just fucking
but scratch.
Freaking snaps the board. That's not so much of a scar. I think that's terminal. No, that's all right. That's all right. Some epoxy will fix that right up.
Don't worry. Allow me to insert a soldering along the whole thing. It will totally work. It will totally work. No problems will occur.
Any electrical surges or jumped circuits. Or
nothing bad will happen at all.
It won't cause any electrical problems.
In no way will you see the thing start to blow up. No way.
The thing will not smoke or spark in any way when I put the power back. And oh, no. Just in case, I'll be in the other room. Just in case.
Do not worry.
Well, you're just like there. Bang!
You just hear one of those popping sounds.
You're like a pop.
You don't. It's not a pop. It's just a.
It's just I just see smoke piling from under the door. What was that? Nothing.
Do not worry, honey. I was experimenting again. Yes, another one of your guided experiments. Leave!
Another one of your void-forsaken experiments.
Stop trying to make a robot controller army.
Also, honey, yeah, might want to open the window. It's gonna smell like burnt plastic and solder for the next 20 minutes. Or an hour, depending.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed.
There you go.
And you got a few things out of this.
And again, everything I referenced and we referenced is in the comments below.
Not the
those
comments,
videos
description.
Again. Description, yes, thank you. Description below. The editor corrects me. It's his
Yes.
job to correct me. That's what I don't pay him for.
Ah, my
That's what
money.
I
I've
wanna
been
pay it.
paid
In
$0.
In fairness, I don't get paid for this either. We do it because we want to, but
We
these
must
items-
work to work.
we must work to work. I could just see that. I'm looking at like, oh, we do this because we want to. In his mind, speak for yourself. God dang it, speak for yourself. I'm looking like,
Someone's just sitting here like, I want my money.
I want my money. I'll get paid eventually.
YouTube, Google, give me money.
So, anyways, like, subscribe, do all the basic things. Have you had a controller fail on you? Are you like me, who is already amassing his little graveyard of
Going
controllers?
through using a controller when you really shouldn't.
I really should probably try to repair them. I dissected controllers in the past, but these new ones I haven't dissected yet because of just how complicated they can be. But again, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, yada 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 yada. You know how the job works.
You know your
Recommended.
job.
You know your job.
You just hit button,
know.
enjoy, watch new video, watch old video, watch new ones again. Do
Watch
what you
new ones
wish.
again. Simple. It's simple,
Simple but effective.
but effective. So, anyways, like I said, like, comment, subscribe to all the fun stuff and anything. And again, like I said, all the stuff's down below. Look up the stuff. Take advantage of that warranty if you can. If not,
No,
but anyways,
don't ward the warranty unless you really have to. Just
don't ward the warranty. Don't do any black magic on
that's
either.
like a general. That's just a general thing. Never warrant the warranty unless you absolutely have to. Just
Translate it. Don't void the warranty because he said 3 different things there. I'm not gonna
yes. Allow me to insert confusion.
As if there wasn't enough already.
Yes.
Anyway.
Ow!
Anyways, the editor needs to go in a corner. I think he's having a moment.
Too much gaming. Too much gaming.
Too much game. As I
Gamer
say,
juice is flowing within
the Master Chief
my
juice is
brain. It functions as 20 processes.
and that's why our views are so low. Anyways, in the words of the immortal Red Green, I'm rooting for you. We're all in this together. Good night.